Good morning, everyone. We're in Mishna Bikurim, Parak Aleph, Chapter 1, Mishna Hey, Mishna Ive. I'll dedicate this morning's learning in memory of my mother, Mrs. Shalom Rabinowitz, Shalom Bas Rav Yaakov Eliezer. So in the previous Mishnah, we had a discussion about a convert who brings Bikurim as to whether he can say the passages that go along with the Bikurim that are brought. So now the next Mishnah now again discusses an issue about a convert or a descendant of converts. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer, Rabbi Eliezer the son of Yaakov said, Isha bas Gerim, a woman the daughter of converts, lo tinase lekahuna, she may not marry a Kohen, ashtei imam Yisrael until her mother or father is from a unbroken Jewish lineage. So it means like this. Torah prohibits a Kohen from marrying a woman who converted. Now our discussion is, what about the daughter of such a woman? Meaning we're not talking about the convert herself, but rather the daughter of the convert. She was born Jewish. Her mother was Jewish. Nonetheless, Rosa ben Yaakov says she may not marry a Kohen. That status of convert in regard to being married, to be able to marry a Kohen or not, isn't just not only dealing with the woman who actually converted, but anyone who's a descendant of hers. Now, that breaks... says Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, that this is actually to continue Achtei Imam Yisrael until her mother is a Yisrael, meaning in a sense has an unbroken Jewish lineage, meaning their lineage is always from people who are born Jewish. So as long as we have the Mishnah says, as long as her mother is from a Yisrael, which would mean if at one point, we just called her the daughter of a convert. But the point would be that as long as at some point in the line of this woman's lineage, there would be someone who has unbroken Jewish lineage, then we say that she could marry a Kohen. So if the situation is where you have a convert, a male convert, and a woman convert, they converted, they had a daughter. That daughter has a status of being a convert. She can't marry a Kohen. Now that girl goes in and marries a descendant of a convert, then it's all going to continue that way. No matter how long the line is, if the line, even though we're telling people born Jewish, but if the line is a line from converts, then the status of convert passes over, and if it's a female, she can't marry a Kohen. But once along the line, either Mishnah says from her mother, but it can either mean from the mother's side or from the father's side. Once we have someone in that line that is born Jewish, meaning has an unbroken Jewish lineage, then it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference if the other partner was a convert. Then it doesn't make a difference. As long as within the line of lineage on either side, there is a person who has an unbroken Jewish lineage, and once there is someone in that line that has an unbroken Jewish lineage, the status of convert is off. But even if they're born Jewish, but again, the line is a line of converts, the status of convert goes over, and she cannot marry a Kohen. And Rabbi ben Yaakov continues, this applies both to converts or to freed slaves. The Torah has a concept of a Eved Kanani, a non-Jewish slave. And that non-Jewish slave actually goes through a process of conversion or a partial conversion. A bris milah, if it's a male, a bris milah, a circumcision is done for the purpose of being an Eved Kanani, which is a status of Jew, which is a certain pseudo status of Judaism. They have to go to the mikveh. And the reason they have to do that is because once they become an Eved Kanani, they become obligated in the mitzvahs of the Torah like a woman is obligated. So they have to go through a level of conversion. Once they are freed, then they have to complete conversion, which means they have to go to the mikveh again, where they're going to become obligated in all 613 mitzvahs. Or a female shall become actually fully obligated in if it's a female, she'll become fully obligated in mitzvahs for those that a woman is obligated in. So that's the status of an Eved Kanani. But at the end of the day, and this happens when he gets freed. When he's a slave, There's a certain level of he's Jewish to a certain degree. Then when he gets freed, he completes his becoming Jewish, and his status is that of like a convert. And therefore, whether we're talking about an actual convert, someone non-Jewish who became Jewish, or someone they willingly decided, or someone who was bought as a slave and then becomes freed and gets the status of a convert, again, their daughters, although born Jewish, will not be able to marry a Kohen, even up to 10 generations, meaning even if this conversion or this freedom of being a slave happened a few generations ago, their daughters will be forbidden to a Kohen until their mother or their father, until somewhere in the land, in the line, you have a grandparent that has an unbroken Jewish lineage. Up to that point, even though, again, it's a line of people born Jewish, but again, it's a line of converts. The status of convert goes over to the daughter, and she cannot marry a Kohen. Once there is a parent in the line that has an unbroken Jewish lineage, then already the status of convert is off, and they can marry a Kohen. Now, it's interesting to note that the Mishnah quotes the sage Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. This is his opinion. There is a sage named Rabbi Yossi who is brought down in Talmud, in the Gemara in Kedushin, who disagrees and says that it's only the convert herself who cannot marry a Kohen, but her daughter, who's born Jewish, may. And therefore, the practical halacha, the final halacha, the final decision, the final law regarding this, brought down in the Baratanura, is that, again, that we follow Elizabeth and Yaakov initially, meaning a woman who is the daughter of Gerim and has no unbroken Jewish lineage in any of her line, whether they're her maternal or paternal line, is not allowed to marry a Kohen. But if she does, we do not force the Kohen to divorce her, and the children have the status of a Kohen. If a Kohen marries a convert, his children do not have the status of a Kohen. They're called chalolim. They've been desecrated from the kahuna. But in this case, even though he's not supposed to marry this woman, but if he does, we don't force him to divorce her, and the children are considered kosher kohanim, says the Baratanura, to the point that if they'd be worthy, they could become the kohanim gedolim. Okay, Mishnah continues. Mishnah says, "Hapitropis v'ashaliyah." Now the Mishnah is continuing back to examples of people who bring bikurim but do not read the passages of bikurim. And the first example is apitropis. Apitropis is the word that's used for someone who manages the estate of orphans. You have orphans, their father passed away, and either the father in his life reported someone to take care of the estate, or the Beis Din or the rabbinical court appointed someone, and he's in charge of their estate. Well, if this field grows bikurim, he has to make sure that the bikurim is brought. When he brings the bikurim, he's going to bring them. There's a mitzvah to bring them, but he's not going to read the passages. Vashaliach, or a agent. That means someone hired an agent to take his bikurim. That means when he collected his fruit, his intention was he's going to send those fruits with a agent through someone else to the Beis HaMikdash to bring them. If that was the original plan, then the halacha is the agent does not read the passages when he brings bikurim. Baratanura points out, but if, let's say, you originally collected the fruits as for bikurim for you to take personally, which means you would have been reading the passages, and then you change your mind, then it's not going to work. Then you have to bring them. You can't send them with an agent, because the halacha is that once bikurim came to a stage that the passages should have been read, then it doesn't change. It has to be brought with reading the passages, and therefore you will not be able to send it with an agent anymore. Next example is ha'eved, a slave. He owns a piece of property. He's got to bring bikurim. He doesn't. Here's another example of someone who doesn't read the passages of bikurim. Ha'isha, let's say a woman owns a piece of land, and she goes ahead and she's bringing bikurim. She will not read the passages. If she has a husband, then the husband can bring the bikurim and read the passages. But if she doesn't have a husband who's bringing it, she's the one bringing it, then she doesn't read the passages. The tumtum androgynous. And the next two examples are a tumtum and an androgynous. And androgynous, if I say it right in English, is an androgen. And the difference between them is a tumtum is someone whose private parts are covered by a thick membrane, so it's not known whether this person is a male or a female. An androgen is someone who has both male and female organs. Both these people have a questionable status as to whether they are considered a man or a woman. In all these cases, they are married. In all the examples we just brought, they have a mitzvah to bring Bikurim, but they will not be reading the passages of Bikurim. Because there is a phrase that goes, I have brought the first of the fruits of the land, that you have given me, meaning the land that you have, the fruits of the land that you have given me, Hashem. Okay, so now let's go through the examples and see, do those words fit? If we're talking about the apitropis, the agent of the orphans, or someone else's agent, it's not his free. It's not coming from his land. He's bringing the bikurim for someone, but it's not his land, so he can't say those words. He can't say those words of the passage. It doesn't say any of the passages. The next example is the eved, the slave, the woman, and these people have a questionable status. Here, the point is that they also cannot say the land that you have given me, which can include their ancestors, which can include people in their line. But the point to say is the land that you have given me means that you have given me this land, meaning you, Hashem, who have apportioned land to people. Now, you may be an heir of them, but you're saying that you gave this land to me also, just like you gave this land to the original people who conquered and inherited the land of Israel. You have given it to me. Now, but that's not going to work by certain people, because by certain people, when the land was divided up originally, they weren't given a portion of land. And therefore, now they wouldn't be able to say those passages of that you gave me the land. And that includes the slave, just like a convert. They were not given the land. Women were not given a specific piece of land. There's a law. If their father passes away and there's no male heirs, that they inherit the land. But they weren't given the land by Hashem when Hashem first gave the land to the Jewish people. Also, we have a source that says that it was only given to males and to those who were unquestionably male. The Tumtum and Androgynous, it's a question. So therefore, they also didn't get a portion of land in the land of Israel. And therefore, they have a mitzvah to bring, because the mitzvah is the mitzvah. They're Jews and they have to bring the mitzvah. They have to have the mitzvah to bring Bikurim. But they cannot say those words that of the land that you have given me, Hashem. And therefore, they cannot say the Mikra Bikurim. They cannot do the reading of the passages that come along with Bikurim. Now, I think the point that is that actually, if you recall, yesterday's Mishnah spoke about a convert that he can't read the passages because he cannot say our forefathers, because it's not his forefathers that got the land, which would be a reason by the freed slave also. At the end of the day, though, our Mishnah gives an explanation as to why that even if we're going to say that halachically we allow the convert to say our forefathers, as in the Shemona Esrei, which was also part of the discussion in yesterday's Mishnah, nonetheless, they're not going to bring Bikurim, because even if there's no problem with saying Avosena, our forefathers, they still cannot say the land that you have given me. And therefore, for that reason also, they cannot read the passages of Bikurim. Beginning with the laws of Rechilas, in the Chavetz Chaim, Klal Zayin, chapter 7, Sif Beis, paragraph 2. V'da de Isser Rechilas hu afilo al amoretz. To speak Rechilas on someone, to tell someone how someone else said something bad about them, did something bad to them, even if that person is an ignorant person, you're not allowed to speak Rechilas about it. He is clearly within your nation. The Torah says, not be a rachel, a peddler within your nation, and this person is clearly within your nation. There's no question. And even if you know that, even though it's clear to you that this ignorant person said something bad about someone and he was completely wrong, and the other person who was wronged is in the right. It could be the rechilas you're saying about someone can be absolutely true. That the person you're telling someone how the other person wrongfully spoke about you, did something wrong to you. You can know that 100% clearly. Doesn't make a difference. It's still rechilas. You cannot say it. Now, let's say you tell someone how a Torah scholar wronged them or said something bad about them. That actually, says the Chavetz Chaim, would be a form of rechilas that's worse for many reasons. Aleph, number one, mitzad etzem rechilas, from the point of the information of the rechilas that you are delivering. The haloi pashad hu shem berechilas shasipra al chaveroi haisal aruve sheker v'vadei anshay chamer yaisem mishem haya emes. Now, if let's say you, in the rechilas that you tell about someone, you're not 100% truthful. Clearly, that is a worse form of rechilas than a truthful. Meaning, rechilas is forbidden even if you tell the truth. If you're lying or partially lying, that makes it worse. If you're telling someone, if you're speaking rechilas about a Torah scholar, most of the time it's going to be wrong. It's going to be not true. Because the assumption is if a person is a true Talmid Chacham, a true Torah scholar, he's not going to say something or do something against someone for no reason. And therefore, we should be assuming that what he did or said, he did so rightfully. Now, you go in and tell someone in a way of saying it was wrong what he did, that means the rechilas is saying is untrue. It doesn't mean that it's not possible that sometimes who we assume is a rabbi or a Torah scholar said something. It could be that it was wrong. But if a person is, again, a well-established person who is knowledgeable and is righteous, and now he did or said something, the assumption should be that he did it rightfully, not wrongfully. Beis, mitzad atzmiyas ha'ishahu, regarding the person themselves, meaning who you're speaking rechilas about. Again, from the point of the prohibition, everybody's the same. But in the severity, it gets worse when you're speaking about this kind of person, meaning a Talmid Chacham. A person is supposed to associate with a Talmid Chacham in any way that they can. The Gemara says you should eat and drink, do business with him, marry your daughter off to him, and to give them great honor. That's how you're supposed to associate with the Talmid Chacham. Now, when you speak rechilas about him, which again causes animosity, it creates animosity within the person who the Talmid Chacham spoke about and did something to, then you're not promoting a positive association with the Talmid Chacham. You're creating a negative one. People will disrespect. People will not want to associate with him. So you're undermining the whole point of how a person is supposed to deal with a Talmid Chacham. Gimel number 3. The result that comes out of this story. You tell someone that an ignorant person said something about him, did something to him, nope, not going to get so worked up about it. But if he hears that a Talmid Chacham went ahead and derided him in some way, now he's really going to go in and get upset. Talmid Chacham went in and said that about me. Such a person spoke badly and did this to me. And quarrels can break up because of it. If you say this about the rabbi of a city to one of the members of the city, this can bring tremendous problems within the community. You could actually cause the rabbi to lose his livelihood because of it. So therefore, the third point is that the severity of speaking about a Talmid Chacham comes from the fact that, a person will react more negatively if he hears a Talmid Chacham derided him than if just any other person does. And if we're talking about you're telling him how the rabbi of the city did it to him, that could cause even bigger problems. Let's just do one more paragraph. Without aid, excuse me. There is no difference when it comes to the prohibition of speaking rechilas, whether he tells Ruvain directly what someone said about him, or he tells Ruvain's wife what someone did to her husband, or you tell Ruvain's relative what they did to his relative. It's for sure they're going to be upset about it. And they're going to have animosity towards that person who did this. Even if you tell these people, don't tell him. And you can even believe they won't tell. It's still rechilas. Because the whole point of rechilas is creating animosity in someone's heart by saying what someone did to someone else. If that someone else is not you, right? You're not the person or this person. If you're not the victim, so to speak, of what that person did directly, but it's your husband, it's your relative, that touches you. So that means when you hear what someone spoke about your relative, that creates animosity in the relative's heart or the spouse's heart towards the person who said it. That's rechilas, because that's the whole point of rechilas. That by saying what you're saying about what someone did, you're going to create animosity between people towards that person who said or did what he said or did. Have a wonderful day.